I call to order this meeting of the Plain Township Board of Trustees. If everybody will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before us we have the agenda. Any additions, deletions, or corrections by fellow board members or department heads at this time? Our concerns to trustees, just ODOT reminder. No further changes. The agenda will stand as amended. Go right to the fiscal officer's report. Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Fiscal officer number 1 is a resolution to authorize payment for pending warrants in the amount of $358,661.60.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 2 is a resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 3 is a resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 4 is a resolution to authorize the following transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 5 is the investment report.
Good to go.
Fiscal officer number 6 is a resolution to authorize the disposal of records pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 149.381.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. The Historical Society signed off as well.
Yeah, we got
Okay, so
sign off on that.
Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 7 is a liquor license permit request from Speedway LLC located at 3980 Everhard Road Northwest, Canton, Ohio 44709.
Actually on this, Brian, we were just talking about this earlier. We got 2 of them, liquor license Speedway. One's 3980 Everhard Road, which is an existing location. Then the other's 4334 Hills and Dales Road, northwest. It's just over the hill from where they're putting in that new, what the heck's the big new grocery store that's going to go up? Yeah, the Meyer. So, I mean, we don't have. Why? Wait, no, that's not right. Because that's Jackson. My bad.
Yeah.
That should be the one at Whipple and.
It's Whipple and Hills and Dales by Whippledale.
Yeah.
Okay.
But down by Marion
That's right.
Yeah.
So we don't really have any outstanding issues with either of those locations selling to minors or anything like that.
No, nothing out of the ordinary with either of those locations.
Okay. I would say we just let it move forward.
Okay. And fiscal officer number 8 is the liquor license request for Speedway LLC located at 4334 Hills and Dales Road Northwest, Canton, Ohio 44709. So I'll mark that as no hearing. And that concludes fiscal officer report.
Administrator, Mrs. Campbell, ready for you to take these verbatim?
Yes, I'll read word for word.
For the record, can we put in that Trustee Sabo was excused this evening due to a medical procedure?
Sure.
Yeah, I will make these rather lengthy next couple resolutions a little more concise. Just to preface this, these both have to do with the ARP funding that we received our first tranche or distribution of from the American Rescue Plan, which Congress passed on March 11, 2021. So that created the Coronavirus Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, and there are a number of uses for this fund. We requested a legal opinion on some of the ideas for the uses of the funds. And such, I have a resolution for the board to consider as a project which qualifies and would be eligible to receive financial assistance for the construction of the amphitheater at Oakwood Square, which would be an outdoor facility to be used by the public to support local activities and local merchants who have been negatively impacted by the effects of the pandemic. And number 2, to replace outdated playground equipment at Diamond that has been used extensively during the course of the pandemic.
I will so move on administrator number 1.
I will second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a similar resolution. In this case, this would be the following projects or purchases. The purchase of a vacuum truck and street sweeper is specifically listed in the overview of the Clean Water State Revolving Fund eligibilities. Funding and construction of the design of the Steiner Heights Storm Sewer Project. Funding of the extension of water and sewer lines to Alino and Diamond Park.
So move on administrator number 2.
I will second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And just to note, Tom, you'll see where you have to put in the date, the motion and second appear in different spaces, and then trustees and fiscal officer that you will sign after the meeting.
Okay.
And item number 3 is, I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, I'll do the resolution, and then I would like Eric Haynes to join in the discussion on this, is to authorize purchase and payment the amount not to exceed $50,000 to EV United for materials and installation of EV Level 2 charging stations to be installed here at the Township Hall to be paid by Fund 01B02.
So move.
Second.
Discussion.
So we applied for and then received grant funding for $10,000 per port for EV chargers. We decided on this location is a perfect place for the first adoption of electric chargers, basically because of the Oakwood Plaza here. The reimbursement, this is a reimbursement grant. They would give us $40,000 back against the expenditures. That's a little bit high. I think the total is $46,780, so it puts us about 15% skin in the game. That includes 5 years of maintenance, warranty, and all that, the merchant account for the use of the chargers, and then we would have further discussion at another time on what rates that we would charge for that use, but that is a replacement grant for 40 of that funding.
And I do want to give kudos and thank Captain Haynes, because he did go after this EV charging station grant on behalf of the township. Really, our skin in the game will be less than $7,000. And Scott, you shared with me a statistic today. Will you share with the audience about,
Got you put me on the spot.
yeah, or who shared with me today about electric charging stations that one company has made a commitment by, in the next 10 years, that all of their vehicles will be, oh, it's John.
Yeah, a Ford Motor Company made a
Ford
commitment.
Motor Company.
Ford's investing $11.2 billion in 2 or 3 plants that are going to be all electric.
And the push is for all electric vehicles in the near future. So this gives our residents a place to charge their vehicles while they eat, shop at Oakwood, and we're already looking at a second grant. We think at Veterans Park, which is another good, spot within the township to do that again. So thank you, Eric. That was you worked very hard on this grant, and out of $50,000 for the township to only be paying about $6,000 for these stations.
Yeah, work should commence on that project within the next couple of weeks, according to the installer. So we'll see how that holds up.
Yeah. So
Well,
good.
I mean, Canton's the only community, I think, around here that I know that's got anything.
They did put some DC fast chargers down at the Hall of Fame, which is a good location for travel. Like if you were traveling long distances close to an interstate corridor, DC rapid chargers cost an approximate $100,000 for installation. level 2 chargers are more designed for parking, recreating, just the exact thing that we have back here, having dinner. If you have guests out of town, you
Eric
don't have
driving
that.
his Tesla to work and charging
As
it.
they say,
His
we're only
wife's-
gonna have about,
his wife's
we're only
Tesla.
gonna have about 3 spots actually.
Yes, yes.
Now I've got that all handled at the house, like,
No, but thank you, Eric.
yep,
No,
absolutely.
thanks for those efforts. No further discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And that's the end of the administrator report.
Fire, Chuck?
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution, whereas Plain Township has a 1988 Pierce fire engine and Stark State Technology Center is in need of such a piece of equipment, Plain Township Board of Trustees are to authorize and direct the fire chief to enter into a memorandum of understanding granting Stark State the use of the vehicle until our new vehicle comes in, and at the end of the contract to be paid $3,000.
I will so move on fire number 1.
I will second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize purchase and payment of tires from Goodyear Commercial Tire in an amount not to exceed $10,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And item number 3 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees that they have found the structure at 3221 Roosevelt Avenue Northeast in unsafe and hazardous condition, according to ORC 505.85, deem it to be demolished.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And that concludes fire department.
Road, is it Joe?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, item number 1 is the resolution by the Board of Trustees to authorize payment to Goodyear Commercial Tire for purchase of tires and supplies not to exceed $3,500.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to promote Evan Bland from full-time road department labor to full-time probationary operator labor to be paid commensurate with the current union wages effective September 29th.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to enter an agreement with OHM Advisors for the Orion Street Northwest Storm Sewer right-of-way design, not to exceed $47,600.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, Joe, have you been able to talk to Brooke? Because I know I've been the one who sat in the meeting. I just want to make sure there's.
Did you talk to,
Just in that email, we haven't really discussed it too much.
well, we met with them last week, and they already did some work on it. They did a survey and all that, and we had them under contract, and we felt that we'd have to redo that if we hired another company. They came back with a fair price. We will have this design done, and then we can go out looking for some grants to do they will give us more time to do the grants, so.
We're talking about 2023, 2024 from, by the time apply the grants, assume secure the funding because of the partnerships,
So
who would be able to go at it with, so.
probably 2023 would be
Yeah.
the year that we would be targeting. So
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Item number 4 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize payment to Don Parker Sales for the inspection, repair, and certification of both vehicles not to exceed $2,768.80 to be provided between the fire and road department.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Thank you.
Zoning, Tom?
Thank you, sir. Item number 1 is a resolution to declare items A through G as nuisance abatements.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution to declare items A through C as nuisance abatement payments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
And that's all for zoning.
Okay, it's gonna take us to parks. Rob.
Thanks. One on the items, a resolution to approve the payment to Mission Barbecue in an amount not to exceed $2,052 for the salute to veterans box lunches to be taken from Fund 01F08D.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
That concludes parks. Thank you.
Okay, law director.
Yes, sir, just one this evening, and that is for the board to enter into the attached service agreement between Plain Township and Kent Township for the 17th Street area with an effective date of October 1st, 2021.
I will so move.
I'll second.
Discussion, we've been back and forth over this, and they finally got their section paved, and now we feel we're on even keel to move forward. So I think the big thing moving forward, especially for JPs, whenever it comes time for replacement, we're absolutely gonna have to hit them at that six months, if not be planting that seed a little earlier, because they just don't have the financial resources. So,
And Scott, for the students in the audience, because I think they probably have to report on a couple things that happened in the meeting, and this would be a good one. Will you explain what this is so that they understand? You had to write about maybe 2 topics or something in the meeting, so this would be a good one.
so in short, we have a section of roadway where another community abuts us, Kent Township. So they technically have to the center line, we technically have to the center line, and just based upon years going back, it was pretty much, would you say, Joe, there was some type of verbal agreement at some point in the past that, you know, got brought up.
There was a written agreement that never got signed, but there was an agreement.
An agreement about what, who would pay when?
Who would take care of which section?
Yeah.
So by the
So-
center line, they mean the middle of the road.
So instead of, you know, us paving one lane and them paving another lanes, essentially, we're just taking a section where it's both lanes, certain distance, and it's important to have anything transactional wise documented, so go back, hold folks accountable. And really what I was referencing to Joe was, you know, in Plain, we're replacing about 10% of our roadways a year.
Correct.
10, maybe even pushing 12% possibly, our roadway per year. And Canton Township, I mean, there's some good folks down there, but they don't have the same financial resources as we're fortunate to have here in Plain. So there's certain terms where, hey, we have to give you a 6-month heads up, and hey, we're gonna look and pay this year so you can get your part of the money set aside. And I think even our law director would tell you, sometimes when we see, outside of this situation, when we're even dealing with annexations and so forth, where municipalities are supposed to be taking the whole road, you know, we have to go back, remind them, and/or in certain situations, get these written agreements in place. That way, it tells the folks who are seeing the day-to-day work, this is indeed what you gotta have done. So, any questions? It's nothing fancy, but it's just one of those things that need to be cleaned up out there. We sort of sat on it until they got their part done, so we knew we'd be even status. Okay. No further discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
Okay. Does bring us, let's see, nothing on our communications, public speaks. Anybody in the audience wish to address the board? Any questions? So we just ask you to state your name and address for the record. So you don't have to speak, I guess. So what class or classes are you out for this evening?
AP and Honors Government.
Okay.
Or Central Catholic?
Yeah.
Okay.
We get more Central Catholic people here than we do get.
We do, And-
So,
And here's the thing, we're on video and your teacher can watch it on YouTube and see that you are here. Well, we can say.
Eric, why don't you do a quick.
You do a quick scan of the audience. Right.
Now, have you had to take a look at, different communities, or it was just, hey, go out, find one?
Wherever.
Yeah.
We heard this was a spot. Any
So,
community
here we
really
are.
in the area.
Now,
I know,
afterwards,
we're the cool kids.
if you have any questions, because I know you probably have to answer a couple questions, just come up and ask so that you know what you're writing about. More
We
help
will.
with that.
Thank you.
Alright, nothing else under public speaks, concerns of trustees. I, again, just want to remind the public that ODOT District 4 feedback for the State Route 43 Mount Pleasant Street intersection safety project, that feedback is due by October 4th. I know we've shared the information out online, there's a link through ODOT, but we need to make sure if anybody's got any concerns or input that it's provided by October 4th, not just for our team, but anybody in the public that may watch this. Okay, anything else? Concerns of trustees? Seeing none, concerns of fiscal officer?
No concerns.
It's going to take us to the approval of the minutes for September 14th, 2021, and I will so move.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
We're good. Or did you need me?
Oh,
I wasn't sure if I...
sorry.
Your roll.
Did I say Mr. Hawes first?
I sort of blanked out for a second.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I said you first, so
Okay.
we're good.
All right, perfect. No need for executive session, so I'll make a motion to adjourn at 6:20 PM.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mrs. Harless?
Yes.
See, that's the real